Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
The Omnipotent, the Merciful, Your Royal Highness,
Your Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad al-Thani, Your Excellency President Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, representative of the media.
Distinguished guests and members of the media, سنشهد الآن التوقيع على اتفاقية في مجال الطيران بين دولة قطر والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
ceremony between
Now
the
we will see
United
the
States of
signing
America
of the agreement of buying aircraft from Boeing. His Excellency Badr bin Abdul Emir will sign from the Qatari side, and Kelly Altberg will be signing on behalf of Boeing.
Between the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Boeing purchase agreement signed on behalf of the State of Qatar by His Excellency Badr Mohammed Emir, CEO of Qatar Airways Company, and behalf of the United States, Kelly Ortberg, President and CEO of the Boeing Company.
So it's more like you're more.
I don't think I can do it.
Okay, fine.
We will now witness the signing of a number of agreements in the field of defense between the State of Qatar and the United States of America, signed on behalf of the State of Qatar by His Excellency Sheikh Saud bin Abdurrahman bin Hassan al-Thani, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of State for Defense Affairs, and on behalf of the United States of America by the Honorable Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. Firstly, a statement of intent on defense cooperation between the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Secondly, a letter of offer and acceptance for MQ-9B aircrafts. And a letter of offer and acceptance, FS lids. Thank you. It is my honor to announce the signing of a joint declaration of cooperation between the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Signed on behalf of the State of Qatar by His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad al-Thani, Emir of the State of Qatar, and the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. The signing ceremony has now come to an end, and now a joint statement from His Highness the Emir and the President.
Thank you very much. We had a couple of hours of great meeting with the President, and we discussed many issues, our great bilateral relationship and also the situation in the region. Of course, I think after signing these documents, we are going to another level of relationship between Qatar and the United States. So I just wanted to thank you, Mr. President, again for this historic visit. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And this has been a very interesting couple of hours. We discussed the world. We discussed Russia and Ukraine, where you've been a tremendous help in so many different ways. We certainly discussed Iran, where it's been really an interesting situation. I have a feeling it's going to work out. I think it's going to work. It's got to work out one way or the other. We know it's going to work out. But you were of great help, and other things. But in particular, trade. The trade is the. Kelly's telling me from Boeing, it's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. And that's 140. Was that a 140 or 160? Well, yeah, but you're right. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets. That's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly. And congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there. Get them out there. But I just want to thank you. We've been friends for a long time, long before politics. Well, for you it was politics. For me it wasn't, right? But we've been friends for a long time, and this is an outstanding man. He's a great man, and we're going to help each other. The United States is in a very strong position militarily. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. You're buying a lot of that equipment, actually, and I think we're going to see some of it in action tomorrow at the, we won't call it an air fair, but it's going to be sort of an air fair. We're going to be shown a display that's going to be incredible. They have the latest and the greatest of our planes and just about everything else. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun and very interesting. But I just want to thank you for the friendship, for the long-time friendship. And again, long before any of this stuff, we just liked each other. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But we always had a very special relationship. And we came from Saudi Arabia, where we have another great man over there that's a friend of yours. And you two guys get along so well and like each other. You sort of remind me a little bit of each other, if you want to know the truth. They're both tall, handsome guys that happen to be very smart. But he's also a very special guy, and it's good to see all the relationships forming in the Middle East, because the Middle East is really being talked about all over the world, and we're having a lot to do with it. We're helping a lot, but they're doing a tremendous job. So I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. I want to thank the media. The media has been very fair, actually, and it's a great honor to be with you. This is, you take a look at this room. This room is the real deal. That's called white marble. It's very hard to buy. Believe me, I know very well, because you try to buy it, you can't buy it. And you just take a look at what you have here. It's been incredible what you've been able to build as a nation. And we're with you all the way, and you know that.
Thank you. The ceremony has now come to an end.
You've just been listening to the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is hosting, of course, at the moment, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is on his 3-country tour of the Gulf region. So let's talk about this with our guests. Faisal al-Mudahka, Editor-in-Chief at Gulf Times. Omar Rahman, Fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs. So they spent quite a long time behind closed doors. We weren't sure. We were hypothesizing how that conversation might have been going, what subjects they might be touching on. This is what they said publicly. The Emir of Qatar was very brief. He said, we discussed bilateral relations and the situation in the region. That's what he said. Donald Trump, a few more words there, also brief, saying we discussed the world, Russia and Ukraine, Iran, he feels it's going to work out, and other things, in particular trade. That's it. That's what we know about these conversations so far. Notably absent from that list is Gaza.
No news is good news. I think no news is good news. I think
Now the program that has been announced that the president will take, will have a rest, and then will be a state banquet. And there is a program tomorrow. So let's wait. I think maybe the matter is with the, with the foreign ministry and the mediation team. This is my feeling, and I think there's negotiations going back and forth. This is a joint brief statement. Normally there is no questions on those end of.
Yeah, it wasn't a
the
press
protocol,
conference.
yeah,
We should
a
make that clear. It
protocol,
wasn't
yeah.
a press conference.
It wasn't a press conference. So it's an agreeable joint statement, and that's the protocol. So let's wait. The banquet will happen from now to the evening and until tomorrow. And I'm still positive. And as I told you, I know our leaders are, will stand, will stand to the end for a good cause. And the timing is cannot be a better timing than this. The legacy of the Syrian, the left of the sanction on Syria, that Qatar have worked very hard on that on many years. And it was and Saudi have worked also very hard on that. So I really think there is a part 2 of the story, a good part 2 of the story, and let's see until tomorrow.
Well, the trip's not over. Even the Qatar leg of the trip isn't over. In fact, we're still only in the first few hours of it.
Yes.
As you mentioned, there are multiple parts to it.
And I will tell you that normally when there is a negotiation, there is no leakage, because leakage normally break deals, right? So my reading on this, that if there is no news, is good news.
Omar, one thing that is very consistent from Saudi Arabia to here, Donald Trump appears to have a genuine and very close relationship with these leaders. It's what he said with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman yesterday. "I love you too much" was the quote. And today he was saying, "We've been friends for a long time. We've liked each other for a very long time. And it's incredible what you built as a nation." He does profess publicly multiple times his admiration and respect for the leaders of the region, and just now the Emir of Qatar.
Yeah, no, I think certainly they have a very positive, strong relationship. You don't hear people talk in those type of terms the way Trump talks about the leaders in this region. So I think they do have a very good relationship. That's why I put a lot of hope, I think, in their ability to influence on some of these critical issues. Just to also weigh in on the question that you just asked, Faisal, I think, I agree that the fact that Gaza wasn't mentioned leads me to believe that the discussion is ongoing. And we have to understand that this one is more difficult than, say, Syrian sanctions. When it comes to Syrian sanctions, that's Trump making a decision that Trump can make on his own. When it comes to Iran even, this is something that Trump is going to decide along with his counterpart, the Iranians. When it comes to Gaza, you have the Israelis there as well. And so while I think on the issue of a ceasefire, Trump can put pressure on the Israelis, he can decide to do that. On those larger issues, you still have the Israelis there making decisions. And so, I think this is going to be a little bit more difficult to work out. My hope is that over the duration of these conversations, they can bring Trump closer to their position.
Faisal, multiple signings. The two notable ones, one, the purchase of the planes, 160 aircraft bought by Qatar Airways from Boeing. This was touted by both the Qatari side and the U.S. side, and also a defense agreement. Now, this is significant. We said earlier that Qatar is host to the largest U.S. military base in the region, and they just signed a defense agreement. We don't know the details of that agreement yet, but it does look to be significant.
The follow-up of His Highness' visit to the U.S., there was a sign of expanding and a master plan. So seeing, I think President Trump have mentioned tomorrow they're going to see an air show or something. So probably there will be like a visit too. But my understanding that there was like an expansion that has been announced. And I don't know where is it, how far that. I'm not really the right guy to.
They haven't provided the details yet.
Yes.
Those will likely be forthcoming.
True.
Maybe today, maybe a little later.
True.
But the reason I pick up on it is because the Emir said we're moving on to another level of relations.
Yeah. You know, I really don't know the detail of that, but what I know that, for example, Qatar is the only country from the Arab country that has a waive from visa, for example, of entering the U.S. So that's and you know, and we already have the status of an ally beyond the NATO. I don't know what is the right terminology, but this gives you only few countries has it, right? Like Japan, Germany, and a couple of countries. So it's a level. What other level of friendship or level of political level of friendship? I really, you know, but I'm anticipating maybe, access of certain things like maybe AI, right? Artificial intelligence. You have to have a certain level to have access to certain technology.
Yeah, these are two countries that were already going into this trip very close, and it seems are getting closer yet. Faisal, Omar, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again. I do want to go to our diplomatic editor, James Bays. You're live at the Qatari Emiri Diwan in Doha, where that signing ceremony was held, James. What are you learning?
Well, what was interesting, Cyril, is that they had that conversation. We saw the very important deals that were signed and those new Boeing planes and the defense agreements and the public stuff that was going on. They talked for a long time, and they said they talked a long time about the issues of the world, and they didn't really tell us a great deal of what was discussed behind closed doors. But as they were leaving, the two leaders, the Emir and the President, myself and a couple of other journalists spotted Steve Witkoff, who is, of course, the presidential envoy dealing with the conflict in Ukraine and dealing with the war on Gaza. So I ran up to him and asked him about both situations, and I think it's pretty telling, his tone, because he was very positive on both files. With regard to the war on Gaza, he said, I think we're making progress. And I said, progress on what? On getting aid in or on an actual ceasefire? And he said, we're making progress on all fronts. And then when it came to the war in Ukraine, as you know, there's this focus of diplomacy in Istanbul, and there could be talks in Istanbul, and there probably will be talks. It's a question of what level they'll be and whether you could even see a summit between President Zelensky and President Putin, with President Trump has said he would detour there. I think that's now unlikely. But again, Mr. Witkoff was very positive. He said, I think we're making progress. I asked him whether President Putin will be going to Istanbul. He said, I can't speak for the Russians and President Putin, but I do think things are going in a positive direction. So Mr. Witkoff, certainly after the meeting that took place, not clear to me yet whether he was actually in that meeting with the Emir of Qatar and President Trump. But on those two very important diplomatic issues, he is saying that there is a positive direction, and certainly on Gaza said he hoped there would be some positive announcements soon. Now, I have no idea of what soon means, what time frame that means.
James, that is notable because Steve Witkoff, I mean, his title is the U.S. Middle East envoy, but he is at the center of pretty much everything the U.S. is doing in terms of negotiations on the big world crises at the moment, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, whether it's Iran, whether it's the Gaza ceasefire. So it is, thank you for bringing that to us. It is interesting to note that he at least projected optimism there a moment ago with you. James, I'll go in and let you see what more you can find out. We'll speak to you again. I want to bring in our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, who is traveling with the U.S. president. Kimberly, on your end, what are you learning after that ceremony that we were just all watching?
Well, what I'm learning is that there's a mission accomplished, to use a phrase from George W. Bush, actually, but for a completely different reason. What Donald Trump is celebrating is that big sale, and that is a big win and victory for the U.S. president. The fact that he has been able to get that purchase order of 210 aircraft. That is the largest order in Boeing's history, and that is going to make headlines in the United States. And that's exactly what Donald Trump was looking for. Also, the GE aircraft engines, 22 billion. That's what this trip is about. It's that exchange of technology, that exchange of dollars, the purchase by Qatar of U.S. From U.S. companies is exactly what Donald Trump wants to bring to create jobs, to inject into the U.S. economy. So this is something that can be celebrated as sort of checking the box for Qatar, if you will. The White House has been putting out press releases for the media, which is exactly what you're seeing behind me. You're getting to see, Cyril, the process of what it's like behind the scenes. We're sort of lining up. The Secret Service is doing a sweep of the media and our belongings before we go to the next event, which is Lusail Palace, where Donald Trump later on is going to be hosted by the Emir of Qatar, and that is the official residence where they're going to be having their state dinner. And so at that palace, the media is going to be allowed to go and to attend and to film some of that event. So this is where we're sort of staged before we go, and that's what you're seeing, the media hanging out. But to your question, look, it's really all about what Donald Trump was talking about with the Emir. You could hear the warmth in their voice talking about the relationship. And that's really what this 4-day tour is about, his relationships with each of these members of the royal family and their leaders. And he talked about how he felt like the Emir of Qatar reminded him a lot of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. They're young, they're dynamic. He said tall and handsome, but they're smart and they have ideas. And Donald Trump believes that this is the new Middle East. This is the future, and that these are the ideas that are going to catapult them into the future, whether it's in the area of defense, whether it is in the area of education. This is what is going to propel these economies forward, and in turn is also going to benefit the United States, which of course is the goal of this U.S. president.
Yeah, Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera's White House correspondent, traveling with the president. We'll let you relocate. We'll let you also work your sources, and you'll come to us as soon as you have anything more, finding out what's being said, not just in public, but also behind closed doors. Kimberly Halkett there. Thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.